most agencies, they always talk about optimizing off of like ad platform metrics and non-financially tied metrics. We created Maverick. Essentially like takes your P&L and we're able to make a really educated forecast off of that in turn, which can create a action plan. We don't think about the ad account. We don't think about ad creative. We don't even think about offer until we can understand like the actual health of their business. Like what is the actual dollars that is hitting their bank account every day? New customer contribution margin. This is a huge North Star for us. This needs to be in the green month over month. And this is what we are really like being graded on. Anyone sells you a forecast, like a 12-month, 3-month, or even a quarterly forecast. And they say, there's a forecast, we're going to hit it. They're lying to you. Forecast is meant to be a compass, but then on a daily basis, steer the ship whether you are over forecast or below forecast.
Explain to me what you've been building over the past few months. What is Maverick? Why did you build it? And what is it going to accomplish for our partners?
What we realized is most agencies, if 7-8-figure brands have worked with agencies, they always talk about optimizing off of like ad platform metrics and non-financially tied metrics. And what we did in the past in TVG is we had really like, I would say like a bunch of like Google Sheets or sheet-based platforms that ingested financial data from our clients, ad platform data, Shopify data, and everything was just a little bit like broken, very manual. You couldn't trust 100% of the data. And so really what we did this past year is we created Maverick, which is our TVG proprietary data platform that essentially like takes your P&L, ingests the P&L, and we're able to make a really educated forecast off of that in turn, which can create a action plan. So really what this is, like in a nutshell, is tying your financial metrics to actual growth marketing forecasting. So I can jump right in if that.
Yeah, show us like the features of it and stuff, because honestly, Pat and I are we've jumped into it, we've looked at it, over the past couple weeks now, but we're kind of newer to this too. So
like I said, lots of problems that this is trying to solve. The biggest one that I think is relevant for this conversation is speed to result. You don't want to just turn your wheels and run more ads, right? When we jump into a relationship with our clients and our partners, we don't think about the ad account. We don't think about ads. We don't think about ad creative. We don't even think about offer until we can understand like the actual health of their business from a P&L perspective. Like what is the actual dollars that is hitting their bank account every day? And then what we do, which I think is pretty unique, is you need to see the customer side, the customer data from Shopify, so you can understand like where all the buckets your revenue is coming from, new or returning customers, and how much of that revenue you're actually keeping at a monthly level. So showing Maverick right here, this is just our P&L section. What this is, step one is ingesting the P&L and really understanding the P&L. CFOs and CPAs love this for us because we can see the health metrics of the business and understand where there is like performance to be had. OPEX, bloat, marketing expenses, cost of delivery. Those are the three main expense buckets that we see when looking at clients' P&Ls. And P&Ls are categorizing their expenses and their profit. So what we do is we really sit down with our partners in this first week of our engagement to understand like their past expenses, and then we can forecast their future expenses better. So kind of just glancing over this at a very high level, net revenue coming in at the top. We have cost of goods sold. We're understanding the gross margin at a month-by-month level. Important to note, this is working for accrual and cash-based accounting. And why that's really important is people that do cash-based accounting, you know that you'll look at your P&L and some months might be negative, some months be break even, and some months might be really profitable because like in a CPG business or any other style of business where you have a lot of expenses one month, like for example, in September, if you place your order for like the next quarter, it could be $300,000 and then next month it might be $30,000. It's extremely volatile and really hard to track and create like a educated forecast off of that. So going from a cash basis to then accrual, like one thing that we do is we just take like the average gross margin of the entire year of a cash basis and then remove the COGS and then throw a assumption of gross profit margin like we did here for this business. We got this P&L. It was cash. We saw that their average COGS as a percent of net revenue was 32%. And we kind of like backwards engineer now. So now we can kind of make a plan from a revenue perspective over COGS. And then really like bucketizing your expenses. So The four that we really look at is COD, cost of delivery, marketing expenses, and OPEX. So you can see like within cost of delivery, it's mainly going to be your cost of goods sold, your pick and pack fees, your shipping, merchant fees, things like that. Marketing expenses is obviously going to be your ad spend, our fee too as well, any platform fees that you have. And then OPEX is payroll, rent, software, is all that other stuff. So categorizing your things into buckets so you can almost like dumb down your P&L and see where like the bloat is as in terms of a percentage.
With, say, newer partners that we onboard and you're looking through the P&L, what's like the most common thing that you see bloated, or the most common direction people need to go to see quick wins? So if someone's watching this now, they're like, oh, I should go check this out. I haven't looked at my cost of delivery. What are the big things that you see?
I would say the most like non-conventional thing coming from a growth marketer is an OPEX bloat. People assume that they are at X amount of revenue and they need certain butts in the seat. But then if you like ask the founder or asked, a VP of marketing, like where are they incentivized for growth? It's nothing. Like they are just like an executor, and either they can offboard that task to us and we could do it, cheaper, faster, smarter, better, tied towards growth, or they just don't need it at all. Like it's just like a person there and they have like literally just butts that need to fill a seat. Cost of delivery, I'll actually talk about later in this episode, hopefully, with our offer calculator, where we are really defining like what the cost of delivery means to acquire a new customer. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then you got profit down here, which is obviously what everyone wants to see at the end of the day. But just doing that is great, but it's hard to make decisions. And what Maverick is built for is reports are great. There's a lot of good tools in Shopify. There's a million different data platforms, right? What we wanted to do is tie financials to growth marketing and make it stupid simple for people to follow. So we can ingest data, have our TVG growth strategists come in, and then a marketing plan goes out. It's exactly what this is built for. And it's meant to be super simple. There's no like gotcha, moments here. We're not trying to swindle anyone. If anything, this puts so much pressure on us to do our job. And that's why clients trust us so much, because it's so overly transparent. Going down to the second section, which I think is arguably more important than the top, is where is this revenue coming from? Is it coming from new customers? Is it coming from returning customers? And this is Shopify data that's uploaded every single day. So it's 100% accurate. So it's split up between new and returning customers. You have revenue here, you have orders, you have net AOV. Biggest thing here is why we have it highlighted, is contribution margin. So contribution margin is your net revenue minus your variable costs minus ad spend to acquire that customer for new customer contribution margin. And the returning customer is just that without the marketing spend. This is really like, this is a huge North Star for us. New customer contribution margin as a growth marketer. This needs to be in the green month over month, and this is what we are really like being graded on and tracking, so we are doing our job. However, what we do, and what I often see when looking at P&Ls, is the returning customer contribution margin minus your OPEX. If this is negative, you are just in a cycle of non-growth, and people can never understand why. So what we love to do, and I think it's super eye-opening for founders to see, is to calculate your returning customer contribution margin versus your OPEX and see if you're growing. Like, do you have margin to put, or percentage of your bucket to put into marketing expenses for growth? Probably not, because you're just like in this constant state of floating and you don't understand why. So this is like, this is a really healthy business we've been working with. Really what we want to do for this is just increase the bottom line a little bit lower here. I think we can reduce some of the OPEX and some of the cost of delivery, which you can maybe get into on this brand later. From here, like this is step one. Again, understanding where we are, and then being able to create a forecast based off of this. So why Maverick is so advantageous for us is within days, we are able to create a forecast, communicate this forecast with the client, understand the risks and the reward of this forecast. And keep in mind, forecast, if anyone sells you a forecast, like a 12-month, 3-month, or even a quarterly forecast, and they say, there's a forecast, we're going to hit it, they're lying to you. A forecast is meant to be a compass, and you're meant to see it, plan it, but then on a daily basis, steer the ship, whether you are over forecast or below forecast, for every single metric. Not saying you should change every single metric. What Maverick tells you is what metric to change to have a result. in X, Y, and Z. Jumping over to the forecast here, what we do is there's a lot of different methodologies to forecast, but we kind of narrow it down to two. One is a top-down approach, and one is a more of like a bottom-up approach. Top-down would be you set a revenue goal, net revenue, or even new customer revenue, and you kind of like work backwards from there. I would say that's more of like the CFO, CPA kind of route of forecasting, to where you have your buckets of COD, OPEX, and marketing and profit, and then again you have your net revenue too as well, and you can kind of like build out from there. Or you have bottom up, I would say, is to where you have like an NCAT goal and you have a spend goal. And then how does everything else fall after all of the buckets are filled in based upon how many customers you want to acquire and how much marketing dollars that you can throw at spend. So two different ways that we've kind of narrowed it down to, but there are a ton of different methodologies out there that, again, all work if you are looking at the right things that you should be looking at and turning the right levers. But what we do is we have forecasts that are built in 6 and 12 month stints. And the important thing is you're able to like see the projected versus your actuals in a month view. And then we also have weekly views, and then we have day views for every single one of these. And you can see for essentially everything that we can pull on a daily basis. So things that we can't pull, obviously, are going to be like OPEX and things that are coming on like a more monthly basis from a P&L from a client. But everything else here is pulled from all of the platforms that we already manage. And we have visibility on all of them in one clear spot, so we can make clear decisions here. So for example, if I go to like a weekly pacing view here, I can see all this at a week view for the month of June into July. And then I could scroll down and see the actuals for that week too as well. And obviously July 3rd hasn't happened yet, so I don't have any actuals in here. But I could know at the end of the day today or at the beginning of the day tomorrow, did I hit my daily goals, to meet the weekly goals, to hit the monthly goals? So that's how we do forecasting. And I'm not even getting into like all the deep kind of methodologies of AMER and all these things, but just like kind of forecasting makes sense. And then I can kind of go on how we are working to create a demand plan based off of this.
Yesterday I had a call with I had two calls. One with a brand that does about $300,000 a month, and we were walking through Maverick in the P&L, and we were talking about, hey, we build this forecast, but obviously with any business, there's seasonality and patterns where, initially when we build out a forecast, it almost looks like steady month over month growth. Like, how do we think about Q4, different periods of the month? How do you think about seasonality when you're making, maybe that goes into the demand plan versus the forecast?
That's something we're actively working on here in the planning stage. The most educated way that we can do that is use historical marketing and see the yield of the result of that marketing. So for example, best case scenario, I could sit down with a client that we just onboarded and go through their entire previous 12 months of what they did on organic, on social, on ads, and tie a dollar amount back to like what that actual result was. So every launch, what is the estimated amount of like revenue that they generated? Last Black Friday, what is the estimated amount of revenue generated? And if we're pacing 10% over last year, maybe I can arguably say that this year's Black Friday would be last Black Friday's plus 10%. So it's making the best educated guess and setting us up for success. But to your point, a flaw in forecasting is often month over month growth. But to your point, the most realistic one, which you just saw actually on the one that I had pulled up, which June was down, but May was crushing it, is because May product launch, June a little bit of a lull. I think the overall picture is you need to be able to see like the forecast for the year and then be able to break that up into different stints. So to your point, I do think it should be actually based off of like seasonality and like manufacturing some marketing peaks every quarter per se, and not necessarily month over month. Although we do have those, I would say, unicorn brands that still continuously have that month over month success.
I had another call with a brand, which is like this guy, kind of like a founder doing everything. And I was very impressed because he basically very manually, I'm going to blow his socks off next week when I show him Maverick, is he manually set up, he basically grades himself every single day of 2025. He grades himself on hitting like that plus X to hit like a goal. So like, I think that's going to be huge if we can pull in more historical data and like map out, because most brands, I mean, there's some like I think product launches are the biggest variable that might make it difficult because It's not like exactly one-to-one. But overall, like seasonality trends, like this brand is in like a kind of like outdoor glove space where it's very, very seasonal. So he can kind of like look at it on a daily basis. But yeah, I think that's super super interesting to note, because some brands want, because most brands is not, we've talked about this, especially being in these summer months. It's like this is kind of like the biggest lull period in ecom, and so you like have to start thinking like, okay, hey, how do we act now so that we have our big Q3 Q4? Because that's where a lot of the work we do now.
In these summer months, kind of pulling back spend, saving it for when you're ready to hit hard. But I just like thinking of like marketing into like an equation, and it should be based off of actuals, but then you should have like a mix of creativity, so everyone is just like working towards something bigger and better. The first step in that is on the ad side, which is a little bit easier because you know a lot of these accounts that were coming on board, they have, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of ad spend that you can pull and already make a conclusion. Is our like creative action and demand plan for how many net new creatives that we need to make based off historicals, win rate, risk rate, like how many of your winning ads are holding all the spend, and if those goes down, you know, you have to replace them with winning ads. So it's creating a numerical amount first of how many ads on Meta, namely, that you have to create at a monthly basis to win on Meta with a NCAC that we have calculated from real numbers, not in-platform numbers. And then even secondary, what we're working on right now is defining the qualitative version of that, which is like, where does that creative come from and what does it look like? The different buckets. Is it brand side? Is it AI? Is it UGC? Is it a brand partnership? And then really understanding those metrics. But the funny part is like what worked in the past, one, isn't going to work in the future, and two, like we're always working to get better. So it's kind of like a baseline, if that makes sense. But I think to your point, using historicals for future, first thing that we're seeing right now is on the creative side for the demand plan for Meta ads.
What should a partner expect? Say if they're talking to Pat, they decide they want to work with us. What does it look like to be able to set up Mav? What do they need to have prepared to plug into Mav? And how does that all work to set up Maverick as if we're onboarding someone?
Setup is like 10 minutes. It's super easy. As long as you have, I would say, your financials in front of you and in check. I'd say the biggest hiccup is not hiccup, but I would say shock has been people that don't have their P&L and their numbers as handy as you would think. And we're talking like, you know, $1 million brands here. So if they have P&L for, I would say, last 12 months to date, that's sent over, download Maverick as a Shopify app. With all of our partners, we have all access that you need to connect everything. And it's just like, you know, 2-3 clicks of a button, and they have access to as well to their partner portal. Because really the goal of this is like, there is no smoke and mirrors here. Like, you should see all the numbers, and what's funny is people don't even know these numbers, and so we want to put the actual real growth metrics in front of them, and they will have them. They will have them even if we're not the ones steering the ship or not. But yeah, they have these numbers right in front of them, but it's very, very, very easy to connect. Really, it's just like an aggregation of data. But like I said, it's not a cajillion reports. You can't go out and make some manual report that will just sit in your email inbox into the ether. They're all actionable, and that's the entire intent behind this, because the speed to result is the name of the game here. What we want to do is we want to put the data that actually matters in front of the smartest people in the room so they can go execute as fast as possible, and we've seen the best results from that so far.